point out that the sun shines down its power to all the world and makes the wind blow strong as it will. I wonder how gentle rains can fall upon the land, so lovely earth can stay lovely still. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 523rd episode of Energy Week with George Harvey and Tom Fennell. I am George Harvey, and Tom Fennell is not here in the flesh.
I'm not in a studio, but I'm in the flesh.
He's in the flesh. He just doesn't happen to be here in the flesh.
I'm in the studio in the flesh.
Anyway, this is a typical thing that happens. Now, what's happened this week is that we're not recording on a Thursday, we're recording on a Monday, because on Thursday I was back in the hospital for the third operation that was being done on my poor heart. And it was a little less scary than a big filling at a dentist, so don't worry about that. But I did have to take care of it. And I should tell you all that in case you're new to the show, the information that we're going to be talking about is from articles that appear at my blog, geoharvey.com. We're going to be starting this show with news from the 11th of May, and it'll be running up to the, the 18th or the 17th? I guess the 17th.
I got it as the 18th, but...
Well, it's the 18th is the day that we were supposed to be broadcasting, and today, of course, is the 22nd. But on the 18th, I was in the hospital at Dartmouth Hitchcock, which, by the way, I just want to say, Dartmouth Hitchcock is a wonderful hospital. The coffee tastes like coffee. It's true.
It is. It's a good regional... What would you call it?
Hospital, you know.
Well, I wasn't thinking about it.
Healthcare.
It's a benefit to the region.
Yeah, and I got to, you know, when we were kids, we used to dream about being put in the hospital with appendicitis or something so we could meet beautiful young women who were nurses. And I got to tell you, I met beautiful young women who were nurses up there. Too bad that they were all young enough to be my granddaughters, but you know, what can I say? They were very nice, very, very nice. The doctors were nice. The technicians were. Everybody was nice. I gotta tell you. Anyway, we're starting this show on Thursday, May 11th.
Right.
And the articles come from the geoharvey.com blog. You can find the specific articles that we're dealing with. There's 21 of them at on a downloadable file and at a site that are at the farther down on the page if you're looking at this on a computer. So I think we should start.
So if you click on, for example, CNET, it's going to go right, not just to CNET, but right to that article.
Yeah. So our first article is on May 11th, and this is the CNET article that Tom just referred to. What do you have for title for this article, Tom? I should put the picture up so people can see it. It's a wave energy converter.
Interesting picture, isn't it?
Isn't it? This thing is sitting out there. It's going to generate electricity.
The potential for stuff like this is infinite.
Oh, well, almost infinite. I'll let you get away with infinite this one time. What do you have for title?
Pulling power from the ocean is the final frontier for renewable energy.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's the final frontier, but anyway, here is the synopsis. With 70% of the Earth's surface covered by oceans, wave power could be one of the largest untapped energy resources. The Biden administration Ocean Climate Action Plan reveals how the ocean holds important potential for renewable energy.
By the way, when they're talking talking about wave power. They're not talking about tidal power. This is the actual power of the waves going up and down.
Yes, that's right. And thank you for pointing that out, because there's tidal power, and there's wave power, and there's current power, which, and all of these things can produce energy. Wave power is constant. It just goes on and on. Some days it's going to be more, some days it's going to be less. But I don't recall ever seeing an ocean that just looked dead calm.
I have.
I believe you have. You've been in the Navy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when it's a dead calm ocean is scary, because it means something bad's coming.
It means something bad is coming?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, I'll take your word for it. Okay, our next item is from Clean Technica. And we have a picture of a future Tesla lithium refinery in Texas. I'll put that
Well,
up.
you don't find lithium. Lithium is dissolved with water, forming lithium hydroxide. And that's what you get out of the water, but you got to separate the two.
Yeah.
And that's basically what that thing that you're looking at does.
Well, it's getting lithium in some source and separating it out. Anyway, what do you have for title?
Tesla produces 5,000 Model Ys in 1 week in Texas and launches a lithium refining site.
Yep.
And that's the lithium refining site.
That's it. That's a rendering of what the site will look like. It's in Texas. Please note, because we're going to hit Texas again. Tesla's on a roll this week. To keep up with almost constantly growing sales, Tesla has been ramping up Model Y production at sites around the world. It has also just broken ground on a lithium refinery project. The news on both fronts is coming from Texas. So, should we go on, Tom? Because our next item is this.
Yes.
Our next picture is a picture.
Like solar panels to me.
Yeah, and they are in Texas.
Aha.
Yeah, and this is from PV Magazine USA.
And it is that.
Yep.
And it says, and I quote, Texas proposes tightened renewable energy permits.
Yeah. Now, considering, what we just saw, Tesla is hiring people in Texas, things are going ahead. Try this out for size. The utility scale solar and wind market was dealt a blow to the head when a Texas Senate group voted 21-9 in favor of SB 624, a state bill that would enforce permitting restrictions and fines on solar and wind projects in the state. A companion bill now heads to the state's House for approval.
There's one word for that.
What?
Politics.
Politics. Empty-headed politics, if you don't mind my saying so.
I agree.
I mean,
I agree. They're scared silly of stranded assets.
Yeah, they're scared of stranded assets. Why don't they get scared of losing jobs? Anyway.
But losing jobs doesn't cost them money.
I would think that losing jobs would cost people in the government
Money.
their jobs in the end.
Oh, that's a good point.
Okay, we're up to Friday, May 12th, and we've got an item from the BBC.
Let me try and scroll down to it. Yeah, there we go. There's a nice picture of smoke from Canada. How
That's
about that?
right. And the smoke is the thin-looking clouds that are in the middle of the picture. They come down from Canada, and then they fork with a northern fork going into New York State, and the southern fork going down to Washington, D.C., as a matter of fact. So,
Well, if you look at that, that's the Atlantic coast that you're looking at.
yeah,
And you can see Massachusetts sticking out into the sea.
that's right. You can see
And if you
Vermont.
look carefully enough, you'll see Long Island, but it's kind of obscured.
Well, I think it depends upon how much you're used to looking at the map of the United States. When I was about second grade, third grade, my mother got me a a jigsaw puzzle that was a state-by-state jigsaw puzzle, except
I
that,
had one of them.
yeah, the only thing was it had Maryland and Delaware combined, and it had Connecticut and Rhode Island combined.
Yep. We may have had the same thing.
We might have, but I learned a lot about the states. It just had the state shape, the name of the state, a star showing the location of the capital, and the name of the capital. So
I'm looking at this picture. It's got it's nicely depicting Lake Michigan.
it sure is, yeah. So this is from BBC. What do you have for a title?
Wildfire smoke from Alberta and British Columbia reaches the U.S.
Yeah, much of Canada. What?
How surprising.
Yeah. Much of Canada and parts of the United States are blanketed by smoke as wildfires rage in Alberta. As of Thursday, there are 75 active wildfires in Alberta, 23 of which are considered out of control. Early May, excuse me, early May is typically the start of wildfire season, but this level of activity is unusual. And we will have, I believe, at least 2 stories in our next show coming up on Thursday about this exact thing.
Related to this.
Yeah, related to this. They're having a terrible wildfire season in
This is significant.
It is. And what they said was, if you take the wildfires in one of these, if you take the wildfires associated with May to the date that the article was written, this year has had more wildfires in Alberta than the previous 5 years combined.
Wow.
Yeah,
Are they really?
it's not good. This is not good. 3,000 square miles. That's a lot to burn.
It sure as heck is.
Yeah. Okay.
Moving right along.
Moving right along, we have a picture of a power plant. Actually,
Well,
2 power plants.
If you count the windmills.
Yeah, the wind turbines, and that other one, I believe, is a gas-powered plant. And this is from CNN.
EPA proposes new rules that would dramatically slash planet-warming pollution from power plants.
Yes.
Well, that's good news.
I will tell you one thing about this, and that is when I write articles, I
Yeah.
never use the word slash unless something is actually sliced.
And it is in this case?
And it's not in this case. This is a reduction. I don't use slash when the word means reduced. And the other thing, another word that I never use is the word utilize. Because utilize does not mean the same thing as use. It means something else. And in my opinion, there's precisely one good reason to use the word utilize, and that is to use it to describe why you should not use the word utilize.
You don't want to utilize the word utilize.
That's right. You got it, Tom. Okay, and what you've read the title. The EPA has proposed one of the most highly anticipated climate rules to date, compelling nearly all U.S. power plants that generate the nation's electricity to capture or otherwise greatly reduce. And by golly, I misspelled the word reduce because I used it to replace the word utilize. Their planet-warming fossil fuel emissions. Well, I'm not perfect. So
No, but the article is the new rules are, well, they haven't been passed yet, but it's a step in the right direction.
yeah, it is. Basically, they're saying if you're going to be burning fossil fuels, you have to capture the carbon, or at least as much of it as can be captured. And
That's not a cheap process.
it's not a cheap process. It means the price of electricity from these plants is going to go up, not enormously, but it will go up. And they're already more expensive than renewables. So, you know, it's putting pressure on them. But what they want to do is they want to stop emitting carbon dioxide. This carbon dioxide is a huge problem. So You know, that's what they're trying to do. Okay. Whoops. There we go. I'm going to take us to the next story.
Moving right along.
Moving right along. We have a story from Clean Technica.
That's what it says.
That's what it says.
And there's a picture of a hydrogen and ammonia plant.
That's right. And it makes sense to put the two of them together.
Why is that?
Well, see, the thing is, you're going to make the hydrogen by electrolyzing water. So you need to have a source of water. But what do you do with the hydrogen once you've got it? And it happens that you can try to, just sell people hydrogen in bottles or however you're going to sell it. Hydrogen is really hard to liquefy. What?
It's very hard to contain.
Yeah, it's hard to contain. The hydrogen molecules will actually go through steel.
Yep.
Not very fast, but they will do it. And the other thing is, it's really, really hard to liquefy this stuff and keep it liquid because it
takes energy.
It takes a lot of energy, and liquid hydrogen is super cold. But the thing is, if you want energy density for example, what are those things called? I'm trying to think of what they are. We talk about them all the time.
I have a hard time reading your mind.
Yeah, I don't know. You have hydrogen reactors that will react to hydrogen. There's a membrane, and they react with the membrane. You can do the same thing with ammonia.
Semi-permeable membrane.
Yeah, and but if you want
like a one-way valve.
Yeah, if you want hydrogen, it's easier to use ammonia. Use it in ammonia. So if you react,
ammonia is a liquid.
Ammonia is.
It can be a gas or a liquid, but it can be transported and it can be stored.
That's right. It's easy to store ammonia, relatively easy. It's easier to store water, but so what? It's
so what they're doing here is they're making ammonia. They're making hydrogen, and they're turning it right into ammonia.
That's right. Anyway, this is from Clean Technica. Did you read the title?
I didn't, but I'm about to.
Good. What a good idea.
NextEra blows green hydrogen raspberry. At renewable energy flows.
Yes, the Florida energy firm NextEra Energy Partners has decided to ditch its natural gas pipelines. It's selling off its natural gas pipelines.
Interesting. They're getting out of the business.
They're getting out of the business and transform itself into a pure play renewable energy investment opportunity. If all goes according to plan, green hydrogen will come to Arkansas, Louisiana, and Oklahoma also. So this is not small potatoes. This is actually a big deal. And NextEra Energy is, by some metrics, the largest electricity utility in the United States.
Yes, it's a big company. NextEra Energy is a big company.
Yeah, they own 7 nuclear power plants, including the one at Seabrook. And they're basically getting rid of their fossil fuel infrastructure assets, and they are not planning or investing in fossil fuels or nuclear.
Well, they see the future.
I think that's the case, yeah. Okay, our next item here, we have a picture of wind turbines.
Looks like a wind turbine. Oh, it looks like a bunch of wind turbines.
A bunch of wind turbines. I see 4 of them there. There might be more, but Okay, this is from Yahoo Finance.
There's an infinite string of them.
Yes.
Renewable revolution. Quote, the U.S. green energy is poised for staggering growth, according to Bloomberg's NEF report.
Yeah, the U.S. clean energy sector is set to deliver a record-breaking 600 gigawatts of solar, wind, and energy storage. What's that?
That's a lot of gigawatts.
That's a lot of gigawatts. That's right. That is, well, let's see. That's about 1,000 times as much capacity as Vermont Yankee had, according to Bloomberg NEF latest clean energy market report.
can say about it.
Yeah, that's a lot, and of course that's not going to happen in 1 year. But Bloomberg NextEra Energy gave its future for the next 10 years to the stockholders about 6 months ago, I'm going to say. And basically they said they are not going to invest in any fossil fuels or nuclear. It's all going to be...
This is the future.
Yeah, it is.
No, it's not going to be too many years in the future where people are going to say, can you imagine back in those days they used to pay for energy?
Yeah.
Pay for fuel?
Yeah. Okay, we have a picture now of John Kerry, believe it or not.
Guy?
This is John Kerry. You know John Kerry.
Yeah, I'm only kidding.
I know you are. This is from CNN.
He's surrounded by flowers.
I hadn't noticed that, but I believe you're correct.
Well, it's a picture of John Kerry, as it says, and the title is, and I quote, "Why John Kerry is confident Biden's climate policies can survive a Republican president."
Yeah, this is a concern that John Kerry and other people have had. Former Secretary of State John Kerry is confident that if a Republican is elected president, the Biden administration wins on climate change and clean energy will still not be reversed. He believes the markets will reject any challenge to the U.S. path to clean energy. And
well, the backstory there is if Republicans get in, it's expected they would throw away a lot of the energy saving.
That's what happened with Donald Trump in office.
Absolutely, yes.
And they're just saying they don't think that's going to happen again because the markets won't put up with it. And,
the market speaks.
That's true, yeah. Okay, should we go on, Tom?
It is.
Okay, our next item. This is not the most beautiful picture in the world, but there it is. This is a wind turbine belonging to Porsche, the car maker. And they're using this for making e-fuels in Chile. Or maybe they're making chili in Chile. I don't know. Anyway, this is from Clean Technica. What do you have for a title?
E-fuels, renewable natural gas, and carbon capture are deeply fakes. Or deep fakes.
Yeah, well, that's
an interesting. That's an interesting statement.
It is. The problem is all of them hold a kernel of potential, but they are just another way for fossil fuel companies to keep on doing what they have always done, which is to make high profits from extracting, transporting, refining, distributing, and burning coal, oil, and methane gas.
So they're flying the flag out there for everybody to salute, and then they're going back doing what they always do.
Well, yeah, except they're going to, I don't know how they're going to do this. The problem that they've got is the amount of money they've got in assets that are going to be stranded is mind-boggling. It's so big.
Yes, it is.
And they don't want to have those stranded assets.
That's a big problem.
It is. Okay.
They've been investing in these assets that are now stranded for a long time.
Yeah, that's
right.
Like
forever.
Like forever, yeah. Okay, our next item, we have a picture. Now, what does the caption in this picture say?
Badly parked Tesla Model 3.
That was me having fun with the caption.
I didn't do it.
I did. That was me. Anyway, this is from Clean Technica, and you have a title.
Can Tesla's price war accelerate electrification?
That's right. And by the way, that Tesla is badly parked. Anyway. Huh?
You can see the white lines.
Yeah, you can. Tesla's price reductions in the first quarter of the year have sent some waves through the auto industry.
This is true.
Yeah, absolutely. As legacy automakers and startups both try to catch up to Tesla's EV dominance, some wonder whether the automakers' price cuts could actually spur a quicker transition to EVs. Well, I don't feel like I'm wondering that at all. I feel like I'm saying, yeah, that's what's going to happen.
I agree with you.
Yeah. So, you got more to say on that?
Well, it's just as the final sentences, they could actually spur a quicker transition to EVs.
Yeah.
And I think that's happening.
Oh, I think it's definitely happening. I see the figures come in on the number of EVs that are being sold month by month, and they just grow. And now I have to admit, sometimes the numbers fall off a little bit for a month, or in the case of COVID, the numbers fell off. Actually, the numbers didn't stop growing for COVID. They just kept growing. But
the EVs are also holding their value.
They're holding their value. That's right. Yeah. Okay. We are up to an article about permafrost, which is in The Guardian.
That's a nice picture of permafrost, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, it's
Kind of scary.
Permafrost that has been, and you know that whole side of that hill, that whole hillside is probably going to fail that same way. This is
Well, it's sort of just being held up by ice.
That's right. Yeah, it's being held up by ice, and the ice is melting.
Collapse due to melting permafrost. That's what it says.
That's what it says. What do you have for a title for the article?
Climate crisis deniers target scientists for vicious abuse on Musk's Twitter.
Okay. Elon Musk had bought Twitter. Twitter had policies on certain topics and certain kinds of abuse, and Elon Musk reversed those policies. And by the way, from what I've read, fired a lot of people who were the people who were exercising those policies. And the synopsis for this says, some of the UK's top scientists are struggling to deal with what they describe as a huge rise in abuse from climate crisis deniers on Twitter since the social media platform was taken over by Elon Musk last year. Twitter's sustainability arm has vanished since then.
By the way, they talk about the UK. This is not relegated to just the UK.
No, this is the United States too. And I don't know what to say about that. It's a shame, but nevertheless, there it is. Okay, we have an item now from the Cowboy State Daily.
I didn't know there was such a thing.
As the Cowboy State? That is Wyoming.
As a Cowboy State Daily.
Oh, I'll tell you what it reminds me of. If you had said to me Cowboy State, I would have thought of Texas. When I was a little kid, and I'm talking about 70 some odd years ago, I remember we lived in Denver, and my mother would love to go out for a ride, go through the countryside, and we'd go out and look around. And I remember her complaining to my father because it absolutely unnerved her, the fact that practically every traffic sign outside of the city had bullet holes in it.
That's true.
And my father would say to her, no, the people who do that don't come from Colorado. Coloradans wouldn't shoot up their signs like that. They pay for those signs. And my mother would say, who shoots them? And my father would say, well, probably those people from Texas. And my mother would say, people from Texas don't drive to Colorado just so they can shoot up highway signs. But that's the way it was in those days. Okay. What do you have for a title? That is a picture, by the way, of a refinery in Wyoming.
Doesn't look much different from a refinery in Texas, does it?
No, it doesn't. They all look alike. All refineries look the same. Actually, I'm just kidding, but nevertheless. What do you have for a title?
Federal delays cost Wyoming more than 6,000 oil and gas wells.
Amazing to me. Wyoming oil and gas production could be much higher if were it not for projects involving more than 6,000 wells being canceled after lengthy waits for permits. One Wyoming project had 5,161 planned wells and it was canceled after waiting 8 years for approval. And I want to point out that waiting 8 years for approval meant that it waited through all 4 years of Donald Trump being president.
Why is that happening?
I can't explain it. The article makes an attempt at kind of explaining it, but I don't think it does a very good job. But it does say that it's happening. And it doesn't say what I just said about Donald Trump. This started with Barack Obama in the White House, and it went through 4 years of Donald Trump and a couple of years of Joe Biden. And, it just never came together. We are up to Monday, May 15th, and we have an item from The Guardian.
Nice picture of ocean ice.
Yes, that was a picture that I went out and found because I couldn't, the article didn't have a, anyway, go ahead.
Oceans have been absorbing the world's extra heat, but there's a huge payback.
Yeah, in March, the surface temperature of the world's oceans was above anything seen in the 40 years that satellites have been measuring it. But 2 kilometers below the surface, the heat has been rising relentlessly for decades, thanks to burning fossil fuels.
That's not good news.
No, this is really bad news. And I think, we're getting into an El Nino year, and we're getting into that year with the oceans having been heated up. We had a year, several years ago, where we had Hurricane Maria and a couple of other hurricanes in the Gulf, because the Gulf was 8 degrees above normal on the surface. Now there are areas off the Atlantic coast of the United States where the temperatures are almost 30 degrees above normal. I don't see how we can have anything but a disastrous hurricane season this year. I just don't see it.
Well, hot oceans mean hot air. And hot air can contain more moisture.
That's right.
More moisture means more and more severe storms.
That's right. And it's just mind-boggling to me. At some point, people are going to start noticing that. Even people who are climate deniers are going to start noticing that things aren't what they used to be, and they're going to have to start adjusting their understanding of the world, because they're going to be having hurricanes. I'm thinking of what was the hurricane? Was it Imelda that hit Vermont?
I don't remember.
A number of years ago, I think it was Imelda, and
I don't remember.
It came up, and it's almost like it went its way in a hurry across New Jersey and New York, and just slammed Vermont. And that was
the one that just sat here for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my brother, who lives in Marlboro, he was going home. He had to stop his car at the Chelsea Diner and walk the rest of the way to Marlboro.
That's a long walk.
It's a long walk, It really is. Of course, he's in pretty good shape physically, so better shape
They
than.
couldn't get up that hill.
The road was wiped out by that road runs along is it the Whetstone Brook that runs along? I think it is.
I think you're right.
And we had
it was just destroyed.
Yeah, and Flat Street. What's the extension of Flat Street called?
Flat Street Extension.
No, but that street. I'm trying to think of what it is, and I'm not doing it. But that street along the Whetstone, which is actually fairly far from the Whetstone, was sufficiently covered with water that when the water receded, there were fish all over it.
Yeah, I think that's the storm that killed my car.
I think it is, yeah. Anyway, this is from yes, we should go on, I guess.
This was from The Guardian. You said that already.
Yes, indeed. And now we have an article from
What's the scroll?
CNN, and there is a picture of an indoor cycling superhighway.
Yeah, look at that, huh?
Isn't that crazy? But what they're
It's very hot weather down there, so that makes sense.
yeah, well, read the title.
World's largest ocean restoration project designed for Dubai.
That's right. And, this is an ocean restoration project. Actually, it is an ocean restoration project, but most of the pictures that accompanied the article were pictures of buildings and things that they were putting up over what is now ocean.
Oh, is that so?
Yeah, in a city known for superlatives, and I guess Dubai is known for superlatives, it's no surprise that someone in Dubai is planning to build another of the, quote, world's largest, end quote. But unlike the tallest skyscrapers or the deepest pool, the latest proposal is not simply an architectural feat, it's a win for ocean conservatism too. And that picture is part of the architectural side of the whole thing, but it's on the ocean, and the ocean is being restored here. And that's really a large part of what this is all about.
Uh-huh.
So, it seems to me that it was Dubai. Somebody told me that he went there, and there's a shopping mall, and the shopping mall has an indoor ski slope.
I have read about that. You're right.
I think it's in Dubai.
I think you're right.
And you can stop, and get off the slope and have something to drink or whatever on the way down.
Dubai is a very small country, but it's very wealthy.
Yes, that is right. It is there. Well, the UAE is United Arab Emirates, and Dubai is just one of a whole bunch of small countries, all of them smaller than Kuwait, that are kind of strung along. Huh?
And they're all wealthy.
All of them except there's one of them that isn't wealthy, and I think it's Sharjah, which is the northernmost. But I don't know that much about it. Okay, we have an article now from Electrek.
That's what it says, and it's got a picture of a bubble curtain.
A bubble curtain, and it's from an image from Vineyard Wind. So this is off the coast of Massachusetts, I guess.
Well, for those who want to know what the heck a bubble curtain is, besides just looking at the picture, it's a underwater noise insulation.
Yeah.
Insulation that involves releasing a stream of air bubbles from a perforated hose on the seafloor.
Yes.
The bubble curtain reduces the noise and vibrations that would otherwise propagate through the water.
Right.
The bubbles absorb the sound energy and also create a barrier that reflects sound waves back toward the source.
Yes.
Who'd have thunk?
Who'd have thunk? Yep. Okay. This is from Electrek. What do you have for a title for the article?
I got to scroll back.
Okay.
This U.S. offshore wind farm is piloting a bubble curtain. What it is and why it's cool.
Yeah, Vineyard Wind in Massachusetts will pilot a secondary bubble curtain on a project with local firm Thayer Mahan, which specializes in seabed surveys, acoustic mitigation, and monitoring. Here is what that is and why it's great for the undersea environment. Basically, it means that if they're going to make noise down there, it's not going to be anywhere near as damaging as it would be otherwise.
Well, the bubbles absorb the noise.
Yeah, absolutely. So, do you have more on that? You've done a good job explaining it.
16th.
Okay, we're up to May 16th, and we have another article, also from Electrek.
Picture. I can't figure that out.
The picture? It looks a little bit like a solar farm,
It does. It looks a lot like one, doesn't it?
doesn't it? And it says solar farm in the caption.
How about that?
Maybe it is a solar farm.
Well, it couldn't fool me.
What do you have for a title?
Renewables supplied 65% of new U.S. utility-scale generating capacity in the first quarter of 2023.
Renewables.
Say that again.
What?
Say that again. You say that.
Well, I'm going to read the synopsis because the synopsis basically says it again. Renewables provided almost 2/3 at 64.64% of new U.S. utility-scale generating capacity added in the first quarter of 2023.
That's significant.
It is indeed. And by the way, they're talking about utility-scale generating capacity, but something on the order of 99% of new projects, solar projects in the United States are not utility scale, and they
utility scale are big.
yeah, and they account for typically around 35 or 40% of the capacity that's added during any time. So my guess is, if you accounted for them, they would actually bring it up to 2/3. Now, this is according to data from the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. Renewable energy now accounts for 27.67% of total installed utility scale generating capacity. So it's over a quarter now.
But that's growing.
It's growing, and you know, I found a reference. This was 20 some odd years old, where the people in the utilities were saying solar power can't grow above 2%. If it does, it'll bring the grid down.
I think they were wrong.
I think they were wrong. Yeah. Okay, we have an item from CNN.
Let's see if I can get this thing to scroll. Here we go.
Here you go. Oh, I said it was going to be next week we'd come back to this. It's already this week.
Wildfire.
Yeah.
That's a wildfire, isn't
That's
it?
a wildfire off in the distance.
More than a third of the area charred by wildfires in western North America can be traced back to fossil fuels. Wow.
Yeah, millions of acres scorched by wildfires in the western United States and Canada can be traced back to carbon pollution in the world's largest fossil fuels and cement companies, according to scientists. Now, since you and I were in high school, Tom, there is a new area of science that has developed. It's called attribution science. And what attribution science does is it figures out, looking at an event, what is the likelihood of this event happening in the presence or the absence of something. So you could actually look at a, going back to Hurricane Harvey, you can look at buildings, homes in the area of Houston, and you can say, what is the probability that this home would have been flooded if there were no climate change? And say that home probably would have flooded, but that home over there probably would not have flooded. And it's not that hard to do.
Attribution science, huh?
It's attribution science. And they can say if it weren't for climate change, the temperature of the Gulf of Mexico would have been lower. The amount of moisture that could get into the air would have been lower. The amount of rain that would have come down would have been lower. And here we're looking at a house that's it's not even in a 500-year flood zone. What is the chance that a bad hurricane would have flooded it? And not in a 500-year flood zone, it probably wouldn't have flooded. But some of those houses down there were not in 500-year flood zones, and they flooded anyway.
Flooded.
Yeah. So that is one of the things that they're looking at. So should we go on?
It is.
Okie dokie. Now we have a picture of a carbon dioxide reactor.
That's it's what it says it is. We'll have to explain what that is because I don't even understand it myself.
Okay, this is from Clean Technica. Read the title, please.
UCLA says we can hack the ocean to store carbon dioxide. That's interesting.
Yeah, a proposed pathway that could help extract billions, that is billions with a B, of metric tons of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere each year. That is each year. Was suggested by UCLA researchers. Instead of directly capturing atmospheric CO2, the technology would extract it from seawater, enabling seawater to absorb more. So basically what they're saying is we're getting to a point where there's a lot of carbon dioxide in the seawater. In fact, 90% plus of the carbon dioxide that has been released out into the wild has gone into the ocean. So that's...
So it's better to take it out of the ocean.
Yeah,
just to take it out of the air.
Yeah, it's cheaper to get it out of the ocean. And then what you do is you get rid of it somehow. And when they're talking about getting rid of it, they are not talking about turning it into fizz for soft drinks. What they're talking about is reacting it chemically so that it becomes something. And there are a bunch of different things that they can do. And in this picture, let me put the picture back up. There's a seawater intake on the left side, and the seawater the carbon dioxide is taken out of the seawater, and then it's reacted to create solids that are then put back in the ocean. Now the solids are solids that don't dissolve easily, so you didn't have to put them in the ocean, but it's a convenient place to get rid of them. The depleted seawater,
That blue side over there is not pure water. There's all sorts of little particles in it.
That's right. That's right. So then the water is put back in the ocean. And by the way, we are up to Wednesday, May 17th. And
we still have to do this one, don't we?
I thought we did it.
UCLA says we can hack the ocean. Yes,
Yeah.
we did. Yes, it did.
I think we did that. Yep. So it's Wednesday, May 17th. We have a picture of the ocean. By golly, we keep talking about the ocean all the time.
We got ocean waves this time. It's different.
That's right, it's ocean waves. So let me put it up. People can see the ocean waves. This is from Clean Technica.
These ocean waves are breakers. They're happening at the shore.
You don't usually have breakers way out at sea. That's true. My father told me about during the Second World War, some huge tidal wave went across the Pacific Ocean, and his ship was out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. And what he told me was, we didn't notice.
How about that?
There's no breaker, so what happens? The ship rises with the rising water and then falls with the falling water. And, and those...
The article says, and I quote,
okay.
Rising ocean temperatures are a threat to human survival.
Yes, the ocean is... What?
Wow.
Yeah. The ocean is like a cooling system in a conventional car. It is amazing at absorbing waste heat, but once it reaches its limit, watch out. There is a full-fledged disaster ahead that most are unaware of because accurate information about what is going on in the ocean is really hard to get. And by the way, I see that the link that I have here from this article has been removed. The name Clean Technica is there, but the link isn't there.
Either.
What?
I don't have that link either.
Yeah, and what's happened? I believe that if you go to geoharvey.com to read this article, you would go to click on the calendar for May 17th, and it would be there. Because I'm pretty sure that it was there, and it was lost. Probably I clicked on a thing that said paste as plain text or something like that.
something like that.
So sorry about that, but that's what I see. Anyway.
Well, we got an interesting picture of a car.
We do.
A Wuling, I can't even say that other word.
Hongguang.
Mini EV. Boy, that's about as mini as you can get.
I think it is about as mini as you can get, yes.
Well, in any case, the Wuling Hongguang Mini EV is now available for just $2,838 plus $28 a month for the battery.
Yeah, I want to point out it is available. It is not available in the United States. It's available in China.
Any Chinese cars are available here, are they?
Yeah.
And China makes a lot of cars.
China makes a lot of cars, just incredible number of cars. The SAIC, yeah?
They have a lot of people.
They do. And by the way, I want to point out the name of this particular venture. It's called SAIC-GM-Wuling. Why GM? Because GM is one of the big investors. This is General Motors that's behind this.
That makes sense.
Yep. Joint venture launched a monthly battery payment plan for the Wuling Hongguang Mini EV. And by the way, I said it is pronounced Hongguang, but, really, nah, that's not how it's pronounced. I'm never going to get Chinese pronunciation correct until I actually formally study Chinese, because they have tonalities that don't exist in easy languages like Welsh. The plan allows customers to buy an EV starting at just $2,838 and then pay $28 per month for the battery for 5 years.
You're basically renting the battery.
You're renting the battery. And this particular system is not new with Wuling. The first time I saw this was with BYD, which was using it to sell buses. And basically, an electric bus is relatively cheap compared to a diesel-powered bus or a gasoline bus, because electric motors are really, really simple compared to internal combustion engines.
And they can be made small enough to fit into a wheel.
Yeah. And
like each wheel can have its own motor.
And what they do is they say, okay, you want a bus? It'll cost $48,000. When I saw that, I said to myself, that isn't even possible. But it turned out that's what they were doing. And then whoever bought the bus was going to pay monthly rent on the battery. And the monthly rent was going to be charged, in this particular case, dependent on the number of miles put on to the bus during the course of the month.
Okay, that makes sense.
It makes it a lot easier. If anything goes wrong with the battery, it's the bus maker's responsibility, or in this case, the car maker's responsibility to deal with it. So there it is. Now,
bingo.
Have you got more to say on this one?
No, let's move along.
Okay, we've got one more article to do.
Well, we got a picture of Texas there.
Yep.
It says annual shareholders meeting.
That's right, Tesla. And this is from Clean Technica. So what do you have for a title on the article?
Tesla leads auto world in operating margin. The Model Y is the best-selling car in the world.
That's amazing. It really is. If you had said that a startup that nobody had heard of 25 years ago would be selling the top car in the world in 25 years, I think it would have been like predicting that the Mets would win the World Series when I was a senior in high school.
Well, Tesla's not the only car maker that started during this period of time.
Yes,
but
that's right.
It survived big time.
Okay, the synopsis for this says Tesla had its 2023 annual shareholder meeting. Some things were already in the company's master plan, Part 3, Investor Day presentation, and previous quarterly shareholders conference calls. Here is a look at some of the highlights. Now, obviously, if you want to find out what the highlights are, click on that. Yeah, you're going to have to go to the article because there's a long list of things that are done here to tell the people what it's all about. But basically, Tesla is, it's showing.
Well, the up margin means the profit, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's what I'm reading it as. Yeah, it implies something about the profit. Anyway, we are at the end of our line here, Tom.
I think we are. I have the word fini on it.
Yeah, I'm going to put up the last slide, which you don't have. And that slide says, have an extraordinarily splendid week. So, as usual, I'm going to wave goodbye. Tom is going to wave goodbye. I know, because I know Tom, that he is right now actively waving. I don't know whether his cat is waving goodbye. His cat does sometimes.
No, he's doing it in another room because he's right.
Well, so we will be back next week, I hope. I'm sorry. Since today is Monday, it's going to be later this week. We will do a regular show on Thursday, and hopefully I can stay out of the hospital between now and then. Not that I would mind going to a place where there's cute young women serving me coffee that tastes like coffee, but Well,
I've been in the hospital up there, and it's an experience. It's a pretty nice hospital, really.
It's amazing, and they just opened a new wing, and cardiology is in the new wing. And a little over 2 weeks ago, when I went up for my original operation, and I was there through the second operation, I was the first occupant ever in that room.
No kidding.
Yeah, and then when I went back again, as big as this place was, I had, instead of being in 467, I was in 469, which was just across the hallway, So I kind of got to know that particular part of the hospital a little bit. I was allowed to walk around once, I had settled down and they weren't worried about me. One thing about that hospital, though, when they do put in a pacemaker, they have you wear handcuffs.
Huh?
Yeah, they're soft handcuffs. They're just a band that goes around the wrist with a cord that is tied down. Because
you got to explain this to me.
Okay, you get a sedative, and they said that they had the experience that people who were on that sedative would take their hands and try to touch the area of their chest where the doctors were operating while they were operating. So what they did was they just put me in handcuffs.
How about that?
Not that I would have tried. I had no idea, no intent to interfere, but there it is. Anyway, we hope to see you all next week. Tom, tell everybody that you hope to see them next week, please.
You'll come back and see us now, you hear?
Yep, there you go. Have a lovely week. Bye-bye.